New Hampshire, we have Democratic presidential candidate Senator Michael Bennet of Colorado. So, Senator, let's start with a question. Are you like the secretariat of this race? Are you just hanging back at the Derby until you're ready to make your move on sham? How's the presidential campaign going?
I think now's the time to make the move. I've said my New Year's resolution is that I want to finish in the top third in New Hampshire, and or the top three in New Hampshire. And I've spent more time here than any other candidate, and I've committed to doing another 50 town halls here. And the reason I've stayed in, Joe, even though I haven't polled great, is that I still think that my plans are the plans that we need to restore the middle class in this country, give working people a chance again, and end childhood poverty. I think they're the best plans that anybody has in the race. And so I'm putting one foot in front of the other, and New Hampshire has rewarded an approach like this before, and I hope they'll do it again.
Well, Senator, so let's not talk about the horse race or even this campaign. If you would, just be a reporter for the people. And tell us, because there is nothing like running a campaign, even on my small level as a congressman. When I ran, I loved knocking on doors and hearing what people had to say. And often it just didn't match up with what people were saying on the floors of Congress or what they were saying in the media. So what are the one or two issues that people keep talking about when you're knocking on the doors, when you're in town hall meetings, when you're talking to them in New Hampshire?
It is incredibly straightforward, Joe, and it's entirely consistent with the 10 years of town hall meetings I've had in my home state of Colorado. It's people coming and saying, Michael, we're working really hard, and we can't afford some combination of housing, health care, higher education, and early childhood education. In other words, we can't afford a middle-class life. We can't save. We think our kids are going to live a more diminished life than the life that we lived and even that our parents lived. And then when they're finished talking about that, they want to talk about climate change. That's what they're talking about.
No, and talk about the real deal. You're unveiling it today. Does that help?
Yeah, I think it does. I mean, it's a combination of stuff that I've been working on the last 10 years to lift up the middle class, to restore opportunity through the way we approach education, and then to deal with the generational challenges that we face, from climate change to immigration to restoring faith in our government and integrity in the White House. And when I look at the other plans, you know, Bernie's offered $55 trillion worth of plans. Elizabeth's offered $41 trillion worth of plans. That's more money than we're spending over the next decade in the federal government as it is today. And I think those are going to be dead on arrival. I don't think we can run Democratic candidates in swing states on those plans. And then I look at the other plans, and they're meek compared to the one that I've proposed. You know, no other plan's going to cut childhood poverty by 40% in 1 year. And I can tell you, as a former school superintendent, that's the most important thing we can do to give kids a decent education. No other plan does more for the middle class than my plan. So that's what the real deal is all about. It's real because not only does it answer the question that you asked about what I'm hearing in my town halls, but it does it in a way that's actually plausible, and importantly, in a way that we can run in purple states and win, you know, like the state of Colorado. There's not a single thing on that list that I can't run for re-election in Colorado on, and I think that would be true of Democrats from Iowa to Arizona to Maine to North Carolina. Winning the Senate can't be an afterthought in this presidential election.
The USA Today, Susan Page is with us and has a question. Susan.
Senator Bennet, you're talking about issues like housing and education while you're on the stump, but you are one of 5 senators who are going to be likely called back to Washington for the impeachment trial of President Trump. Can you talk about what you think the impact of the impeachment trial is going to be on Democrats, the Democratic field generally, and also how you specifically plan to handle this time period when you're going to be focused on something you are not hearing from voters about? What will you do during the impeachment trial?
Well, I'm going to be in Washington and fulfilling my constitutional duties, and I'm sure the other people will be as well. And on the off hours, I hope that I'll be continuing to communicate with people in New Hampshire. I find it really useful to have these town halls, like Joe said. I think it's the best source of information about what people are thinking about, and being responsive to that is going to give us a nominee that actually can take on Donald Trump and win. So it's not obviously the most convenient thing in the world to have this impeachment trial in the middle of that, but it is what it is, and I think we're all going to be able to walk and chew gum at the same time.
Commentaries. Noah Rothman has the next question. Noah.
Senator, yes, so I want to talk about your plan here. You go after some of your opponents for spending a lot of money, but you also propose expanding Medicare, which is very expensive. I don't think a lot of people have dealt with the cost of this. I mean, we're talking, the trustees have said that the program's hospital insurance fund is insolvent in 6 years. You have a lot of revenue generators in here, but the one that looks most enticing is the smart wealth tax. Can you talk about what is smart about it, and does it get around the problems with Senator Warren's tax, mostly the prohibitions in the Constitution on direct taxes and taxes on expropriating property?
Right. I mean, what's smart about it is that it's constitutional and it can be administered. And I don't think the other ones that have been put forward fulfill those criteria. It's largely about equalizing the rates between capital gains and ordinary income, investment income and working income, and dealing with the stepped-up basis issues that confront us as we, think about these estates that are building up and building up and building up, being passed from one aristocrat to another in this country. We don't need that in the United States of America. And then on the health care costs, you're quite right. I mean, we are spending twice as much as any other country in the world on health care, and we've got to reduce that. And I think the way we're going to do that is by creating transparency in our health care system so that everything has a price tag. And negotiating drug prices. I mean, there's not a mystery to why we're spending more money than other countries. It has nothing to do with health care. It's our broken politics in Washington, D.C., and I think we can overcome that.
Let's go to David Ignatius next. David.
Senator, former Vice President Joe Biden still the front runner in the national polls. What do you think is his weakest point, and why should moderate Democrats vote for you instead of Biden?
Well, I'd say that my view is that people want new generational leadership, and that I think is his biggest weakness. His tax plan includes, for example, restoring the state and local deduction, which I know is popular in New York, but 86% of the benefit of that goes to the richest 5% of people in America. It's a little bit like the plan that he struck with Joe Biden on the fiscal cliff deal when we extended all the Bush tax cuts, having run against that for years and years and years as Democrats. So we're seeing more of that sort of the same kind of go-along stuff instead of actually addressing the needs of the people in my town halls that Joe talked about. I think the other concern that I have is that he's said over and over again that if we just get rid of Trump, things will go back to normal. There was not a normal before Donald Trump was here. And Joe knows this well. Congress wasn't working at all during that period of time because the Freedom Caucus had immobilized our exercise in self-government. And I think we need a president who will go out to all 50 states with an agenda that the American people can actually support, that's popular, that's not just empty promises, and bring it back to Washington and overcome a broken Washington. It is the only way, I think, this democracy, in the end, can make progress on the economic issues that we face and also the generational issues we face, like climate change. And the next generation of Americans is becoming very impatient with us, and I think that the plans that I put forward are responsive to what they're asking for, and so that's the case that I would make.
All right, Senator Michael Bennet, thank you so much for being with us. We
Thank you for having me.
Appreciate it. Yeah, and good luck out there.
Look forward to seeing you up here.
We are looking forward to it. We will see you very soon in New Hampshire. Susan Page, so this morning,